All right, then we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 7:12. Call to order and roll call. I'll just go after the name. Brian Carroll, it's me. I'm here. Cheryl is absent today. Carolyn Casavan, I haven't heard from her. She's absent.
I don't believe she's going to be continuing on.
Yeah.
She stepped away from our committee in the past. So,
Cool. That's good to know.
Yep.
Richard Adams just called me, let me know that he will not be joining us.
Okay.
But he left some public comments for me.
Okay.
Jan Ross is also unable to attend today. Heidi McKay.
Here.
Melanie Winter, waiting on her. L. Stephanie Tate.
That's me.
And that's everybody who's listed on the committee. Great. So I'm just going to give a quick update. I'm very excited to be the new chair of this committee. I think it's going to be great. I love this town. A lot of great stuff that has already been in process. We're just going to take some time today to just figure out where we are, what the committee has done in the past, where those projects and motions and everything are just to catch up, just as a continuity. I thank very much Lisa for being here to facilitate a very smooth transition and continuity. And I also thank her for all her years of work on this committee and driving it to where it is today. This meeting might be rough, it might be whatever. We're just going to roll with the punches. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa for agenda item 3. Unless anyone has public comment on number 3. I believe so.
Oh, I didn't know I was going to take a comment here. Well, the sustainability was a committee that grew from a need in the necessity to have something that's a standalone in the past. When I first got involved in 2009, it was its own environmental affairs and cultural affairs. And then, so you know the history behind it, and then it disbanded, and some of the activities of what the Environmental Affairs Committee did rolled up into outreach, believe it or not. And that continued on until there was a little bit more momentum from stakeholders to start the committee again, and that took a little time, but we got approval back in 2015, and it first took flight in that June 2015. So that's a little bit of the history, and to report back on where we're at for the Sustainability Committee, all the committee members are notified and asking for them to continue on, and you have their emails. And so I think the best thing to do is still keep them in the loop until they say they don't want to be part of the communique, and utilize, if I could be so bold, utilize your partnerships with outreach to get the word out that you're looking to form a stronger union, let people know that they could just attend a meeting, they don't have to join the committee, and using our resources is imperative, such as our elected officials. They have platforms to get the word out. We have a wonderful business environment here that's right here on the CBS campus. You could network with them to ask if you could see if any of their business holders and members would want to join. There's so many different ways of building this into a larger platform. So that's, and I'm sure you're all going to add value as time goes on as to getting more people to speak to what our sustainability is and what your vision is and what you want to accomplish. And I think that's all done through collective ideas. So the more the merrier. In regards to where the committee stands right now, we had several motions put through over the course of a year and a quarter due to some of the missing parts in our, what would you say, our board, the secretary. Some of those motions weren't carried forward, so a little recognizance efforts were in play, and we went and we spoke to those officials that it should have been directed to. So there was some groundwork on a select number of the motions that were pushed forward, but the true process was truncated with the lack of that person. I don't know where the board is at right now with the official a corresponding secretary, but you could certainly, maybe board member.
Unfortunately, they're still empty, the corresponding and the secretary, so it's.
Okay, those are important roles, and as you go about really nurturing your engagement with the neighborhood council as a board member and chair, you'll find that these are pinnacle roles in getting the work that each of the committees does into the hands of our elected officials and also partners. DWP, all these other organizations and associations surrounding us and affecting us. So that would be where I would start in looking at our motions, which I think our last meeting was September or October, right? Or May, no, most.
Well, we're in.
Pardon me, I'm looking back.
September now.
It was, I know, look at me.
So, no, that's okay.
I think it was,
It was a few months ago.
Yeah.
And then we had
Yeah, I think
one
it was
or
May.
two kind of,
It was May, I
The last agenda item was May.
okay, so then there was a brain dump of motions and ideas to set the next leader and collective committee on, here's some ideas to go off of. Here's a jump on point. Certainly just ideas, and certainly it's up to you as a committee what feeds your heart and mind and what you want to move forward on. But that is, how many pages? 2 to 3 pages of it.
and you have a copy of that?
Not only do I have a copy of that was in the agenda, right?
Yes, everything's in-
It's right back in here.
Oh, good,
For
okay.
today, so-
Oh, this is it, okay, great.
Yeah, for the most part, just going through, kind of itemize and being like, where we are.
Do these
So-
include the ones that that we voted on and the board voted on that never made it to their intended
Yes.
recipient?
Yeah, that's
The June
item 6.
2000, yes, it's number 6. Now, the fact is, here's a really
Okay.
good caveat, and when we get to number 6,
Okay.
things might have taken place from June to now,
Mhm.
and maybe the city acted upon it independently. I know that I spoke to a stakeholder today that said that there had been some momentum on a zero emissions equipment use at public parks and city services. So that's outside of my realm of knowledge because it was moving towards a different, Parks and Rec was doing it and moving it, and we weren't circled back on it. It wasn't a community impact statement. So some of these might be alive and kicking and also resolved, and others might be just sitting waiting to have an owner take on. And it is everybody's benefit if somebody takes the lead and owns that project. We found that if somebody was attached to
Right,
it,
mhm.
there'd be a little bit more ownership, responsibility, and follow through.
Of course.
So that's what we did, and I just wanna, in conclusion, real quickly, so you could proceed, I don't see any borders. My theory, and hopefully I think some of the past committee members felt that just because we sit in Studio City, air travels over borders, situations that we were working on were a collective city issue that affected Studio City as well as all other stakeholders in Los Angeles. And we had taken part on things that stakeholders brought that were happening in South LA and divesting in certain directives with the city, investment portfolios and move away from coal and things of that nature. So again, it wasn't really affecting our little world, but it did in the essence of sustainability, which we believed in is a little bit more holistic.
Sure, oh, so
Yeah.
sorry.
So that was just something that when you are bringing ideas or when stakeholders are coming in, you might find it worthwhile to go outside of Studio City and dig for other things that are happening that you could be a
Mhm,
part of that
addressing.
movement.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
that's that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Moving on to number 4, it's public comments, non-agenda items within the committee's jurisdiction. I think just to start, perhaps a vote to make a new committee member right away, as that is within our jurisdiction. Lane Semperer?
Yes.
I make a motion. I'm just going to do this. I don't know if this is the correct way to do it, but we're going to try it. I make a motion to make you a committee member for sustainability. And do I need a second for that, or
All in favor?
All in favor?
Yeah.
Second, and all in
Thank
favor.
you.
welcome to the committee?
Thank you very much.
Very good to have you. All right. Does anyone else have any sort of public comments on things that are not itemized?
No, agenda. Well, we'll go through it and then maybe
We can always, yeah, we can
at the
put a
end
pin
I'll
in
see.
it too.
My concern is, well, she was already brought it up about the gas-powered
Leaf
garden
blowers.
leaf blowers.
Yeah.
That is just getting crazy. So.
And without any other public comments, there's also probably no response to a non-existent public comment. So let's just move on to number 6, is the update on sustainability motions passed by the Studio City Neighborhood Council Board in June 2017. Number A, the board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests that the Bureau of Engineering consider Studio City for their green infrastructure pilot program. So, first I just want to ask, what is, or what are the kind of green infrastructure pilot programs that the Bureau of Engineering is doing?
Well, that was something that was brought to our attention back in 2017, and there was a lead on that. And he was sent, and I'll have to dig it through this. I really would have loved to know that I was taking. Let me do this. I will follow up.
Yeah, just send.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we don't
follow
have to
up
need it right
on
now.
the emails for the gentleman that was part of that communication, and they will have to let you know if that's moving forward. They were looking at cutouts, swells, ways of doing micro testing in communities for water collection, retention, reclamation, things like that. And I thought, gee whiz, why not Studio City? Because we have a little bit of a pocket at Moore Park in Tahunga where every rainy season it just becomes a lake over there. And if there was any way that city streets and sanitation or whoever could do a cutout and collect the water and let it go into the aquifers instead of sitting there with our
Yeah, trash and stuff.
trash and everything collecting. So that one will be an email follow-up. The
Right.
next one, the Board of the Studio City requests the City of Los Angeles become a zero and ultra low emissions ground maintenance operation. There is, and that one I briefly touched on, there is a organization that reached out to us and asked us to support this movement to stop the use of gas-powered equipment through the city and other entities. Could it be county? Absolutely. There are other cities such as Pasadena that passed it, and basically it's doable. There are equipment out there that they could replace. They could do it even in a pilot program for 5 of the communities and see how it bodes as to acceptability and adoptability through their teams of workforce, right? You don't have to go maybe all out. I don't know, but it would be interesting to. I will send you anything that I have on that, or I'll ask one person in the community that might have a finger on the pulse.
Yeah, great.
But also, I would recommend that the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance is brought into this situation. They have a leaf blower committee,
Oh,
and they will shed light on things of that nature. So that's a great resource to give you a status as to things that we're doing in parallel with the Neighborhood Council Sustainability
May I
Committee.
mention something? Just
Yes.
They've changed the name recently to the Environmental Health Committee, formerly known as the Leaf Blower Working Group. I
Okay.
keep apprised via their emails. I'm
Okay.
happy to share.
that's great.
Yeah, great.
So that's awesome. So maybe if you know what's happening, is that something that you have right now, a
You
handle
know,
on
I
that?
had to bow out because it was just too much work. But they've got a good lock on it, and I can share the information, the updates as, our meetings
Mhm.
progress.
Great.
So that also, again, the bird in my ear today was saying that it sounded like Parks and Rec was doing something after exhaustive meetings with this AGSA group that you were at the meeting, I'm sure, because they came twice. And it is a group that comes from pushing it through positively and having good effects with Pasadena. So I'll send you the emails and the contacts.
Yeah, and I think
them.
just to make a small comment here. I think with all of these things, it may just be like we're just kind of acknowledging them if we don't have all the details at our fingertips.
Fabulous.
Just be like, oh,
Yes.
right, this is still a thing. We can follow up all of these things with emails and contacts and who contact
Right.
persons. We don't have to go like into a whole thing. If
Thank
if
you. Keep me on point. So
Totally.
I'll shorten everything up in regards to point C.
If you have more to say, please do.
No.
I'm just saying, like, don't feel pressure to.
Okay, great. I will go into.
Cool.
So C, this one is related to the leaf blower.
Isn't
Only-
B also the leaf blower, or that was other things?
It seems like the
I
leaf
don't
blower is
know.
part of a bigger picture.
The B is, there's a organization that works in getting cities and municipalities, communities, whatever it's going to be, to transition out of gas-powered equipment. And that's lawnmowers, leaf blowers,
okay.
everything.
Even their trucks, probably nice electric
Yes,
trucks.
exactly. And they've
Okay.
been successful with communities across
Okay, so that's all
California.
everything, and then
That's
C is
under line
specific.
item B. C is truly related to the handheld gas.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. So this one was followed up, and after speaking to a representative from Councilmember Krekorian's office, in a nutshell, they don't have the enforcement in place to get out there and cite the homeowner and or the landscaper on these illegal operations of gas leaf blowers. So,
Hello.
Oh, we have a puppy.
oh, Melanie and friend.
Hi, are you committee member two?
Good. Now we really have quorum.
There's nothing in the bylaws to say a dog can't be part of the
No,
committee.
you're right about that.
Here.
Are we on camera?
Yes.
Seriously?
It's an
Did we
earbud
do a
situation.
release?
Oh, that's a great one.
Oh, I can make a quick comment on that. I'm Brian, by the way.
Hi, Brian, Melanie.
I circled back with people requesting videotape. They just said it's going to be used just for the YouTube channel for this, and it's just Brown Act to do it, and no.
For the YouTube channel for this?
So
No,
yeah,
it's just their, it's a recording on the
It is open to the
SCNC's, yeah, it's a public meeting, so it's just their way of letting people see if they couldn't make it to the meeting
yeah.
to watch it.
But I did follow up with that, and they just kind of shot it out of the air. But yeah, to cite the Brown Act if I get nervous about it, but that's the general thing.
Here's your signer.
How are
And
you?
is this the first Studio City committee meeting or board meeting to be taped?
Oh,
No.
no, a lot, they've been taped for about 2 years
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
The other councils are taping them as well.
Gotcha. Okay, hi.
Hi, very nice to meet you. I'm Brian. We're just continuing on. I'm sorry, did you say have anything for 6C?
Just gave you the nutshell scenario
Cool.
of the funding.
No enforcement.
But
No
there is,
enforcement.
I believe there was funding related to this particular enforcement
Right.
and where is that money's if being used? If in fact it was used to hire more police force, not just for this, but for other activities. So it'd be interesting to investigate to see how this can move, if there's
Yeah.
more momentum other than the Studio City Neighborhood Council calling it. And again, the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance, as you had made mention, has this on their radar.
Pretty good. I just want to add a comment from Richard Adams, who sent me a bunch of, I think all of you got it, but just to follow up on that. He was just saying for 6, old business, still support, but with no secretary, good luck. The committee will need to step up and do the board's job for them to move forward. So we'll just stay on them and see where these are. I think it's good. So, any other comments for 6? Anyone have anything to say?
Well, just, I was reporting to 311 as directed by our mayor's office. Whenever you see someone using a gas-powered leaf blower, they've been illegal since, what, 1998, 1999?
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
It's
yes,
horrifying.
LAMC, there's no specific code for it, but I had a talk with my landlord because I was breathing in fumes in a guest house for years, and finally I said, I need to start reporting it, and I did, and of course I lost my home after 7 years.
Because you reported the.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't fight it or anything. What are you gonna do? So I suffered. My cat got asthma. Emma's on Atopica on a weekly basis now. You know, cost $100 a bottle. So we've got to be careful if you do report it. By all means, please do. But maybe if people know if you have a home, there could be repercussions if you're a renter.
Could you have not reported anonymously without telling her?
I should have.
Yeah.
But I thought I could work with her, and she never got fined. You know, the police, nothing happens.
Mhm.
They receive a notification. They're supposed to fine them $100. We found out through research through the leaf blower group that no money's ever been collected. All these years, imagine we could have been paying for police officers with that money.
Well, it needs to change. I think we need to start putting some heat on this. This is a big one, and especially when the news just came out, we're number 8 in the, is it nation or
We're
the world?
number 2 in the world. Los
Yes.
Angeles and Bakersfield.
I
Canex
mean, that's
reported it last week.
ridiculous.
The worst pollution in the world.
Yeah.
It's a
Right.
quality of a life
It's
issue,
quality of
and
life.
I think
I mean,
that
we have all,
there's,
yeah, we have all these
correct.
electric cars now, and it's the trend, and yet, you know, and every day you hear 2 or 3 of them because all your neighbors have gardeners. If you
Right,
live in
and
a
my heart goes
residential,
out
you
to
know,
them because they
single
get
family.
sick too, especially in the heat. So if anyone knows of a single guest house in the area, thank you for letting me know.
Well, if you choose to replace your lawn, then you have no need to blow the leaves off the property.
Well,
I think you're, no,
No, it's
there are trees
unfortunately-
and,
Yeah, there are
so
trees.
this is a bigger issue and we
Yeah.
always
Yes,
come down the.
But leaves are mulch.
Okay, so understood, but we thought there's also benefits from having lawns too, so it's a real biodiversity
it is.
conversation with, but if we're gonna draw the line in the sand, let's draw the line in the
Right.
sand that these are illegal
Right,
and
yeah.
it should be.
Yeah.
Right, and there's
Handled
also
such.
allergens. You're kicking up Roundup and all kinds of things.
It's also
right?
carbon pollution.
I had
Yeah,
just a
that's
quick thought on this and we'll move on, but I was driving down past, a couple of days ago, past Ralph's, and their guys were using the blower, and I thought, all right, well, why don't we start with the businesses, you know, Ralph's
Commercial.
is a chain. So why don't we have, you know, somehow getting, you know, if the mayor is saying that to do 311, I mean, when did you last hear that?
Oh, I
Was
go
that-
to City Hall. I'm there all the
I mean,
time.
what I'd like to do is get something in writing, either from the mayor directly or Paul Krekorian is also sending out these email blasts that these are illegal, and start printing them out, something like that, and then taking them to the businesses and getting them on board, you know, and
But they've
just
got to
getting the
start
word
giving
out there.
tickets because as long as people are slapped
Yeah,
on
but
the
if
hand,
they-
they're not going to do anything.
Well, we'll just,
I
they don't
would
have to
like-
know they won't.
I
They
would
don't
like
have to know
us,
they
if
wouldn't.
possible, when the next time City Council's here in a few weeks, when they're at Van Nuys on that Friday, let's go make public comment. I drove all the way to Diamond Bar, I don't know how many times, to South Coast Air Quality Management. You know, when I'm walking across the parking lot, 2 leaf blowers. They're
In their own
gardeners in the
parking lot?
front. So I have to make
Oh
public,
my God,
I have
that's
to
too
change my
bad.
public comment to include that. So what are you
Oh
gonna
my.
do?
Well, we did work with the South Coast Air Quality Management District last year in a equipment exchange program, and we got them to
good.
change, yeah. And we got them to eliminate any opportunities for people to get, and these are people in the commercial field, not residential, to turn in their gas-powered leaf blowers and only get electric. So that was because it was banned in the city of Los Angeles, right? So that's another partner that we got to change on the dime, noting what our laws are saying and policies. And so it's just little by little working with organizations that can help change and dial it up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
South-
we need to dial.
But then they
Yeah.
counter that because there's nowhere to plug it in. We see them both in the truck and they're using the gas.
It's just,
Yeah.
right, and there's always
Yeah.
gonna be that, but if we
Well, at
educate
least
our
we're
community
trying.
members, and this is what I was told by Krekorian's office, it all starts with education. There's not enough money in our neighborhood council to
Okay.
give us what we need to give
We could
every
ask whether
resident.
or not those
But I'm
$1
just
fines
saying-
could be directed to the neighborhood councils.
Right.
I mean,
But I thought it was a very
Seriously,
unrealistic
if-
way of looking to get the resolution. We can't educate everybody
Mhm.
and have them change. If we were to get them to do the save the drop, then yeah, if the mayor's behind it and we had this huge free advertisement to the, I would say yes, it is an education. We could get them to change.
Maybe we could talk to the neighborhood council sustainability alliance about seeing, since no money has been collected, it's no loss to the city, if monies could go to neighborhood councils. Neighborhood councils would be happy to educate
Sure,
their
yeah.
constituents about that and
That's what
collect fines in the
Porter
process
Ranch
to help
was
support
doing
their
that.
own
Mm.
neighborhood council activities. One option.
I also really like the idea of going after corporate businesses
Mm-hmm.
because especially they're a lot more organized and a lot
Yeah.
more susceptible to accountability
They
than
don't
the
have
individual
to know
people.
that, yeah, exactly,
know,
yeah.
It's and I don't know the exact stats on this, but I would imagine that they're leaf blowing a lot more often maybe than individual person in a household is.
I
So
saw him at LA Fitness, and I
Yeah.
went in and told the manager, and I'm sure it went in one ear and out the other, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so yeah, you have LA Fitness, you have a lot of commercials, so we could at least start there.
yeah,
But LA Fitness is not managing the gardener, it's the mini mall manager that's
Well, this was the
managing.
standalone on Coldwater.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that's,
That's
oh,
a-
that one up there, oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
but certainly
Okay.
like these pockets of businesses and plazas and
Yes.
stuff, we can start to
But
like fill in the gaps.
I'd be happy to call the the owners of the malls, because I overheard that Bath, the way they trim their trees, they killed.
What about working with the chamber,
All, well, I guess.
Studio City Chamber?
You know, Lisa Hart can fill us in on this.
Okay.
She's very
That's
well
great.
versed.
Great, okay, good.
Cool.
Would it be useful to reach out to
Yeah.
the chamber?
Yeah, I guess that's would be a good place to go.
The thing is, they're afraid of losing business. That's the whole point why they're not using them.
Yeah,
So the chamber, I don't know if it's worth a try, but we
I
haven't
just go
had that.
direct, I'll go direct to
Yeah.
each business.
And there's
do it
probably
anyway,
and there's
I mean.
strategies to make this positive and make
Yeah,
it, you know,
of
like a
course,
quality of
yeah.
life thing. There's ways to do this organizationally, I think.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
So we'll circle back on that too. I think there's a lot of good strategy things
Yeah.
in there.
Is there a way to do something? Remember when Obama became president, they had the turn in your junkie card to have a rebate
Yeah,
towards.
cash for clung.
Yeah. Is there something that you could do where, like, if you turn in your
It's sporadic because,
Okay,
again,
yeah.
this is a subject that I worked very hard on for the past year, and I
Yeah.
just let it go because, you know, I couldn't save my home. So I'm glad that you guys are picking up on this, but Porter Ranch is heavily involved. We spoke with the police officers. The
On the
police
leaf
officer,
blowers? On the leaf
the
blowers?
police
Yeah.
officer that spoke during the presentation, it's on tape, he wasn't even aware they were illegal. So.
Yeah, that's not.
Right.
Education.
So I don't mean to be a downer here. I'm saying we've done this, and I'm so grateful that you're picking it up.
Oh, no, well, we should,
Yeah.
and just a real quick note, and then we'll go, but it's not just the emissions, it's actually the dust from the blowers, which may be as bad, if not worse. So the education needs to be, and Diana
Particulates.
Zogren is brilliant with this, is that gardeners really need to just rake. You know, just go back to raking. I have my gardener rake. I know he doesn't like it, but it looks fine. It doesn't take him much longer, and there's no dust in the air, and there's no emissions. So they just need to go back. What did they do before they had these things?
Right, because the dust would be applicable for a gas-powered or an electric.
Mm-hmm.
They also
Right.
have solar ones now that
Exactly,
suck
the
out the
electric-
leaves.
It solves
I think
part
they-
of the problem, but it
Right.
still create, yeah.
I think it
sorry.
needs to be two things because I did speak to my neighbors, landscapers, and he was very open to it. He goes, but I'm gonna charge more for my work and they're not gonna pay it, and then I lose the account. So he was looking at it, it's like, I can't do some of these lawns in the time that I'm given to go from client to client.
Yeah, that's-
So there's a lot of
Yeah.
discussion. It's not just the homeowners, it's not just the business owners, there's
Well, it's gonna
a
take a
workout.
change of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a
we don't want to hurt anybody from
paradigm
doing their
or
business,
whatever, you know,
but
it's definitely a
it's
change
also
in consciousness.
Or just
Yeah.
having city council start to implement charging them. Let them pay the $100 each time.
well,
Yeah.
I think there should be a license maybe for this that they improve. They could get discounts on maybe the electric ones for a period of time. There's all ways of doing it to make it more acceptable,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's good, and I think especially for what we're talking about specifically, just their enforcement. I think if we were to follow up on this, it at least alerts them that we're back on keeping them accountable on that, and then like this should be absolutely like a rolling discussion over strategy and how to really kind of phase these out because this is obviously a multi-tier,
Yes.
multi-pronged attack.
Yes.
So
And as you said, the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance has been on top of this for
Yeah, I
Oh,
love
over
to
a
what-
know.
year.
they've done incredible work.
Yeah.
well, that's good. Any more comment on 6? Should we move on to 7?
Yes.
Great. So 7, the presentation, discussion, and possible motion if matters are not already in a working group or with approved motion in another committee with respect to. And I figure we can just, again, this is just catching up what these things are. If someone wants to take it, ownership, let's do that. But really just to kind of acknowledge that they exist, that these are the things that are in the process of being worked on, and we'll see where we may. 7A, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests Council District 2 to publicly share the tree removal report received from CFAC. The public notice shall be easily accessible and timely available via a new static tree removal page connected with the current paulkrekorian.org/environment webpage. Motion would be sent to A, the Council District 2, and P, Public Works.
I thought we had that motion, didn't we? Did it pass?
No, this went live. There is again, Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance, and CFAC could educate us more, but I do believe that there is something that neighborhood councils are being alerted.
Mm-hmm.
The Neighborhood Council Board is being alerted as to trees being removed. At this point in time, if there are developers with 3 or more trees, there has to be a public notice on it. But if it's less than 3, if a tree falls in the forest, does anybody hear it? In other words, they could take it out. And
Unless it's a protected tree.
well, no, because I do know.
You're not talking about the sidewalk repair.
No.
If it's a protected tree, a developer can't just take it out.
I know. Isn't one of the oak trees protected?
Yeah.
There are several protected
The
species.
oak, black walnut,
Sycamore.
toyon, oh no, toyon just wasn't
Sycamore.
added yet.
So there's a development in Studio City. Again, one of our liaison community
Sunshine-
members,
Sunshine
correct?
Terrace, yeah.
And I believe there's 6 oak trees that are in jeopardy of being removed. So again, I'm not the expert in this area. This was brought to us by a community stakeholder that's
great.
very close to tree preservation, and as we all know, our urban canopy has been decimated.
Yeah. Is this something we can contact the stakeholder and just see where we stand on this?
I think CFAC would be a great.
CFAC would be the best?
Yes,
Great.
and I.
Well, I'll ask Diana.
Okay.
You're talking about Diana, aren't you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
mean,
don't want her to be the keeper of the flame for everything. So,
Right.
and I believe she may have stepped away from one
Okay.
of the committees, and I don't know if it's the council's. She
Sustainability.
shouldn't be the keeper.
Go-to, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
so
Well, I
CFAC
know
might
enough,
be
because
it.
I'm actually on
And
the
that'd be respectful.
Sustainability Tree Committee.
Okay.
So I'll ask her or Joanna. I'll find
Okay.
out where this is at.
Right, I just-
Okay.
I guess I wanted to know, is this something that we're going to present as a motion, or are we waiting to get more information before we present it as a motion?
It seems like we're going to get more information.
Yeah, because I thought we already had the motion, but you would know
Right.
if we did or not, so.
No motions were presented. This was all investigative
Right, this was just
research
okay.
that people, if they're ready to go jump in on it, this is where you should
Okay.
be going.
Okay.
So how, you'll
I'll-
reach
I'll
out
take
and
it out.
okay, great.
I'll look
That
into
is
this
good
one.
news. All right. B, establish due process and replacement trees for tree removal under new sidewalk repair program. Potentially halt rebate program until program short-term or long-term plan is defined along with key performance indicator such as cost, success, drivers, etc.
Is this from previous, or did you write this?
This is from previous.
Yeah,
This
these
is
are all from the previous.
previous,
Yeah.
okay.
The only
Yeah,
things I
this-
removed from this were a couple of ones at the end which seemed like they were time sensitive
Mm-hmm.
based on motions that were currently going through city council.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is kind of similar to the one before. Basically what's happening is the city, as you will probably know, there's the sidewalk repair.
Yeah.
And what my understanding is that what they've decided to do is just take all the trees out that are creating cracks in the sidewalk.
Mhm.
Pretty much every city around us, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, Pasadena, West Hollywood, when you go down the street, and I have a gazillion pictures, you'll go down and you'll see a beautiful, mature sycamore or ficus or whatever, and you'll see the big, thick roots, and then a flat, beautiful sidewalk.
Mhm.
They don't just take down their beautiful, mature trees. They have to go back in 10 years, 15 years. So what? You're not gonna get a 30 to 50-year-old tree. You know, it's horrible what LA is doing. And they're basically, it's from what I understand, one size fits all, meaning they're just taking the trees down. They are not trying to do the remediation that the other cities are doing.
Mm.
So that's why what they're trying to do is, and there was no EIR done, so, all the experts that are saying what's gonna happen to the heat island effect or whatever without these trees. And sure, they plant a new tree, but it's climate change, we're having warming. We're gonna have water, we're gonna be short, so how are we gonna grow all these new trees? And yet we're taking down all our beautiful mature trees that are already there, so it's pretty horrible. So, anyway, I kind of
Is
went
this
off on a tangent.
Is this
I
something
know, it's
that
important.
you said Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, they all have programs better than LA?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Is that something where we can kind of investigate
Well, I think
those?
that's why I was wondering
approaches?
where this came from, because it is sort of, I believe the Sustainability Tree Committee is looking into all of that,
Mhm.
so it's kind of in process, but again, I'll check on that as well.
You want that as well?
Yeah.
Great.
Did these, sorry, I think you answered this in the night, but I'm still trying to process it. There are 4 things here. Did these first 3 come from the neighborhood NCSA? Or we
No,
picked them from the NCSA?
This was a brain dump
Uh-huh.
over the course of many months to find replacement for the Sustainability Committee chair, and I didn't want to lose footing on some of the issues at hand, so this is a continuum of what was on from May and
Yeah.
previous months. So this has not gone forward, this is
Okay.
not Neighborhood Council Sustainability
Yeah, these are just things in
Alliance.
progress.
Which is probably why
These
I
are
was
thoughts
confused, because this is
put
since
into-
May, and I
Yeah.
think things have happened since.
Absolutely.
That's what I was like,
Absolutely.
wait, I think something's happened
I think
since,
with all
yeah.
these 3 here, that are directly related to the tree program in one way or another,
Mhm.
check in with the status and the language and any potential motions that others have been putting through the
Yeah.
NCSA.
I think that's all we're trying
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
establish.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
These
just,
are,
So I'll check with the sustainability of trees.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and on the third one, just a heads
Oh,
up. Sorry.
we're still on B. Did you have a comment?
Are we working with tree people up at Coldwater for something like this?
Tree
or-
people is sort of become more of they try to stay away from these types
Policy
of things.
making.
Policy,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
But they give away free trees, they gave
Yeah.
away dozens
They
at the
do.
Porter Ranch
Yeah,
Earth
and-
Day Fair.
And they
They're
have
one
like
of-
groups go and
But
plan.
there's
They're
kind
one
of staying away
6
from
contractors with the city.
there's to
Seems
preserve
different.
LA, there's other organizations that are also working on maintaining and preserving the LA urban
Mhm.
landscape. So
That's
this
good.
is a very important issue at hand right now. There's a lot more buzz happening through social media and Nextdoor. So I think you'd get traction, and there has been progress, just to answer your question, definitely on a lot of these things.
Well, we
because-
stopped not
Yeah.
too long, about a month ago, a whole street in Hollywood, but it's on hold. But on Cherokee, I think, I don't know, 10 or 15 mature trees, beautiful ficus trees. But
So, I mean, if we can align with, check in on progress and align with language, and if we
Mhm.
wanna submit a CIS, or if we wanna pass a motion, or what we wanna do strategically to align with other things that are
Yeah.
moving ahead, that would be great on
Definitely.
those 3.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think between this meeting and the next one, definitely.
we'll get some legs on
Let's
this.
assign the person. Very generous for taking the first 2.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, 3, because it seems like
You
the
got-
third one is.
Yeah, probably as well.
third
but
one
just
should
let's
care,
yeah, let's just figure out where we are on those. Figure out, as you
Okay.
said, the language and updates and motions on that kind of stuff, and then I'm gonna try to develop some sort of open communication for the committee itself, whether that's like a Google group or what, so we can like really start to bring these ideas together. And yeah, next committee meeting, let's do a bunch of motions right in a row
Yeah.
of all of these things if we can prepare them in time.
Sure.
Obviously, no pressure, but I think that'd be great. So. So C, I'll read it first, then Melanie, you get a comment. Request City of Los Angeles, DWP, and Department of Urban Forestry establish a proper tree care program / guideline instead of tree trimming, stop the mal-pruning, get skilled inspectors, minimize the second trip back, etc., and infringement violations rehabilitation program. Also, demand a quality control back-end system to verify tree trimming processes that keep to guidelines.
I was angry that day.
I love
You have
it.
every right to be. It's
I was
horrifying.
really upset,
Yeah.
but
So, these are things that have been going on and been pushing on for a long, long time, particularly through CFAC and other mechanisms. As you can see, there's several departments that have some jurisdiction over tree
Yeah.
trimming, so it gets a little dicey. There's a conversation going on right now with respect to demolishing the Department of Street Services. It wouldn't, if there's been a motion on that.
wow.
And having it absorbed into engineering. So that would put up in question a potential restructuring of urban forestry and consolidation and best practices going along with that.
Yep.
I think one of the things that might be useful with all the tree motions related to the sidewalk repair, related to urban forestry practices, et cetera, would be for a motion and with solidarity from others to elevate the importance of the urban canopy in Los Angeles and provide the funding necessary to do this. Talking about the public health issues, talking about these other things, and then bringing these other things in line with it rather than going with the buckshot.
Separately. Yeah.
Looking at where we
The
are
whole
in the
picture.
landscape
Yeah.
and taking the big picture, big issue, the urban heat island impacts that we're
Yes.
facing. And one other thing to think about in C, and it relates to the sidewalk repair program as well, is when you see the city going in and taking out an entire street or taking out a healthy tree somewhere, if you look at the state of the urban forest and you for the most part, many neighborhoods were built wholesale, neighborhood by neighborhood. So those trees, by and large, are going to be of the same relative age. And in many cases, of a very limited number of species. Many of those species may not do well under climate change, under increased temperatures. And if you have a monoculture, then when a pest comes through, you're going to have a lot of die-off. So looking at assessing the health in neighborhoods where there is some decline, and we have information on where there is decline because people call and report them. And that's something we can ferret out as well. But rather than, looking at, all right, the next 5 years, this is going to be a disaster, so let's not take them all out wholesale. Let's take out the sickest first and plant so that these things have a chance, the new ones
To
have
grow.
a chance to start growing, because if you leave neighborhoods without that cover, that's a risk. But thinking strategically like that, and then in the long term, looking again at the power of neighborhood councils to take on some of these roles. When the sidewalk repair program was being shaped, there was quite a bit of discussion about an urban forestry program that had more citizen involvement, such as New York City, where they put residents who are interested in participating in the maintenance of the urban forest through rigorous training. The Free People did a training some years back. I think they may still offer it occasionally,
They
but I
do
don't
sometimes,
know.
yeah.
Not very frequently, but it was not a thorough training. It was more like, you're now part of the teams and you know a couple things. It wasn't you're really able, you're qualified to go in and identify issues in your neighborhood, take care of some of the simpler ones, keep things healthy. New York City and a few other cities have exemplary programs.
Yeah.
And I know people who are qualified urban foresters using neighborhood councils to help to facilitate local groups and local programs like that can also involve middle and high school students to start getting involved through service
Yeah.
learning, to then maybe grow up to become urban foresters, to be an overseer or a facilitator, or at least some sort of champion of protecting the urban forest. There are those mechanisms I think we haven't taken advantage of, and that's something else to think of.
That's very good.
Yeah, I think Chicago's also doing that.
Yeah.
Pretty much
And it's
everybody
really
does.
good.
Everybody does.
Yeah, we're really
That's
good at
unfortunate.
signaling on things
Right,
and
yeah.
doing good PR, because that's We
Yeah.
are.
Oh, yeah, right.
We
But
need a
it's
flashy
fire.
commercial
Yeah.
for
But the
it.
substance really needs to take hold and
Definitely.
so.
I love it.
I really like that idea of really getting an in-depth program to get people, because then they're also investing in the community, which then leads to a lot of other really good things, including like even getting to know your neighbor and like calling attention to like
You see other
if
issues
someone
that come
does
up
it-
in the neighborhood.
exactly,
You know,
yeah,
Storm drains
yeah.
are backed up or the clogged
Exactly,
or whatever you
yeah.
notice. But having a tree canopy and being able to walk or bike in a neighborhood, those are inextricable. You cannot have a pedestrian oriented community, you cannot have people bicycling, you cannot have people, well, you know, it also goes to your reduced heat and cooling bills as well and public health.
May I say something? We have all these wonderful ideas, and I spent 2 years talking about them on the Sustainability Committee as co-chair. But nothing really came to fruition, and we've got the studio here with such great ability for outreach to actually make these things happen instead of talking about them. Can we have a fair here on the lot? That'll attract the people, that'll get the word out, and make things happen.
I agree with you, but there's one thing that I've noticed over the course of volunteering, and that is having a concise and cohesive message. So I really, as you came from one community, and it's just really important to make sure that there's a very thoughtful, progressive plan in place, because otherwise the fair that you have, you don't have actionable tactics in place.
We have the board minutes, just go through there, highlight the key things, and we'll just build on that. For example, when I went to Studio City's table at the fair, when Heidi was there, I'm not sure if you were there, I learned right there and then. You know, it was concise, we found out what you were doing, we could easily do the same thing.
Oh, I
Well,
was thinking
definitely
of-
that, and,
yeah.
and just getting it out there, like the education, like on next door, and, you know, maybe even, I was sort of thinking with the sidewalk repair thing, having a petition where, you know, you just start getting people to just realize what's going on, that the city needs to kind of halt for a moment, take a breath, do an EIR, whatever they need to do to stop this momentum of just taking all these trees down. But I think just getting it out there for the public, because next door is amazing, social media, and if you have a link to a petition, people start reading it. I mean, you know, we had the petition for the Burbank airport noise, and I think in 3 days we got about 1,600 signatures.
Is everybody on
That was
next
a big
door?
deal, that was
Yeah.
something
But
different,
when
but
it's
as
actually, when
far
people
as
know
right,
about
Yeah.
something,
it has
they-
to affect
Yeah.
them.
But what I was
So-
saying is that if you
I'm sorry.
have one message, if everybody's on the same point to your initiative of letting everybody know what's happening, get that message, get it all on the same page, and then push it out. Otherwise, we
Right.
have different.
And if we can find tangible ways to
Storylines.
do this instead of talking
Yes.
about it, in other words, let's get the
Get
minutes
the
out,
action, yeah.
get the highlighter out, and it's done. But I have not just engaged with Porter Ranch, West Hills, I go to the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council and the Homeowner Association, so I get involved with everyone here trying to see how we can pull each other together.
Sure.
And I found the only way to do that is at these fun events.
Hmm.
Petitions are great too if they're affected.
Oh, of course, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'd like some actionable motions and maybe working with the council member to put
Yeah,
a motion forward.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be
Well,
important. Yeah.
that's ultimately
Yeah.
what you want, but they tend to listen to a lot of people, so when
Yeah.
you get petitions with thousands of people, they go, oh, this is something I better do. But I've had experience with a situation where it was the people that finally got the effect, you know, so I know
With
that's
Save
what
Porter
it
Ranch,
works.
they got 14,000 signatures
They
to shut
know.
down the
Wow.
Lisa.
Food and Water Watch
Huh?
is,
But-
they're the best organizers
Yeah, exactly.
out there.
Well, Matt Bakuko and Susan Gorman Chang, who's the vice president of the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, they spearheaded this long before Food and Water Watch. But yeah, I attended every single hearing, town hall, workshop, you name it.
Mm. A lot of work to be done out there,
Lot of
isn't
work
there?
to- yeah.
It's like it's daunting, isn't it?
Let's do it. I love
Doable.
it. Just a quick note on A through C. Just Richard Adams said that he supports.
Okay.
That's a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's any more on that, I'll move on to D. There's a request of bylaws or budget committee to create an MOU in guideline for SCNC funding on sustainable environmental green projects brought to board. May include A, final maintenance replacement plan presented at time of funding request. B, guidelines on what SCNC receives as to SCNC icon on site. eblast recipients follows patrons, etc. C, establish standards for health of projects year over year for 10-year period. And if any are not meeting standards, funding requests will be denied until standards met. D, articulate the financial partners tied into project besides the request of SCNC, the percentage of project owned per entity. E, provide 3 quotes for SCNC to pay directly for best vendor service with funding requests. F, plans for project, including plant selection, are approved by SCNC Board if funding is 40% or more of entire project. Preference native plants before any other options. G, all project plans are presented upfront when funds are requested, and if anything alters from approved plans, the funds would be frozen until new plans are reviewed. In other words, board does not approve changeable plans. H, no permanent branded signage larger than 8.5 by 11 at site for any SCNC funded projects, etc. from committee.
Was that
Another
in
one of
English?
my hot ideas.
Oh, this is you, okay.
This is me.
I was gonna
Was
ask.
this in English? I've just.
This is me out of 9 years of seeing projects come to the board. Have you ever been to a Studio City Neighborhood Council board meeting?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So,
you're on.
when parties come to request funding, it goes to the funding committee first. It's approved there, and then it's made for a motion at the board meeting.
The funding committee, you mean the committee that would handle
Finance.
that?
There's
Budget, you mean?
budget meeting.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
the
I'm
budget
sorry,
meeting.
okay.
Pardon me. So they review it, and then it gets put forth to the board. And what I've noticed through the course of time is that some projects might be greenlit and funded and changed from point of approval of funding
Yeah.
to the time of execution. Parties come and go from that entity group that came in and asked for the funding, and there's never been any solid, if you're coming for monies from SCNC, and this is sustainability only, I can't speak to other elements because we are sustainability. What are the plans being put in there? Are we the only entities sourcing the funding for this? If so, why? Why have you had bad luck in getting money from other resources? There's a thoughtfulness that should be part of responsibility, I guess, on our part to make sure that we're just not a bank entity for projects. We should really be a part of the solution if there's going to be something done that's beautification, sustainability, preservation. Let's be a part of the helping that entity put it into action. And so these were a couple of protective measures, yet helpful measures, not hindrances, but helpful measures that allow for Studio City Neighborhood Council and the Sustainability Committee to partner and make sure that things are put into action, preferably the way that we assumed they would when we came up with the funding. So,
Yeah, this just seems to be kind of just solidifying a process and laying down our terms for
yes.
project moving forward
And holding people accountable.
and holding people accountable.
Holding
Some-
people
yeah,
accountable, yes, because maybe you put X dollars, and it could be anything from $2,500 to $3,000 to $5,000 for XYZ, and that project disintegrates over time, or the project itself doesn't have a legacy on it. Are they going to pay for the water then, or are you coming back to us in 3 years for us to pay for the maintenance of the project? And if that's the case, then why not just make it a SCNC project, and we appreciate it.
Mhm.
Things like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thought.
There's
food
suggestions for
thought.
guidelines. And
Yes,
stuff like
and
that.
it might go into a bylaws
Great.
committee. It might be just something we set up.
yeah,
and then
I can
yeah.
start like myself. I can start to kind of drill this down
Mhm.
and come up with some ideas, and I can present it to everyone
Right.
through whatever new portal for communication I'm gonna discover and magically.
Well, it might just be email, you'll have a.
It might just be
Share,
email. It might very well. be.
Yeah, the sustainability
Yeah.
plus, yeah.
A couple thoughts.
Yeah.
This is sort of what you're looking to do is when anybody goes to get a grant from a state agency, say who does, grants, calls for projects, there are grant guidelines.
Mhm.
And so and there's a process, and you have to fill out a form, and you have to show that you meet X, Y, and Z, the goals of the program. And if these are for sustainable environmental green projects, then that would be the purview of this committee to set those standards.
Yeah.
So we would say, here are the things that you need to show that this project is accomplishing for us to consider funding or approving that in our community. And that's one start. So it's put out there as an upfront thing that precludes this. It can be done pretty simply, but there are some things in here that I would, a couple questions. So you're asking for a guarantee of the standard for health of projects year over year for 10 years, and if the project is not meeting those standards, the funding request is denied until the standards are met. Well, so if a project has been funded and built and 5 years later the health of the project is not meeting the standards, the funding's already been out there.
You have to come to the neighborhood council with maybe a 3-year plan. These
Yeah.
are the criteria you set up. Or a 5-year plan saying, we're gonna build this park, and we're asking for $5,000 to put forth that park. Well, here's your $5,000, but in 2 years, that park is in a disastrous state, and then somebody comes back to the Studio City Neighborhood Council and asks for funding to maintain it because it came into disarray. So I think that, again, my idea or thought was to make sure that there's a legacy to that project that we fund initially, and it's a sense of pride for.
I understand that. What I'm
Yeah, so
asking
what's your
is
question?
A and C
Yes.
seem to have some inherent conflict here.
Final
If
maintenance
you are
replacement
asking
plan.
someone to put a maintenance replacement plan,
Okay.
if that's a
A.
requirement to come along with the project,
Mm-hmm. And what was the next
then
one?
then what you're saying is that could be wrapped into C in a way that is a little more sensible and
That's fine. This is a brain dump. You could,
yeah,
for
and
sure.
a 10-year period is a pretty high standard, especially if it's
Again.
a landscape plan, and if there is, unless along with the request is annual O&M. Or you can say someone else is gonna pay for the O&M, or you show what the plans are to have that O&M going on. But these two things, the way they're worded, are a little bit in conflict.
Wonderful.
And
You guys
And they can be amended. I have,
Yep.
Richard Adams has another comment on this
Okay,
item
sure.
as well.
Can put that together, then it
Yeah.
might help. I would object to E. And
Let me see, provide 3 quotes to Studio
And
City
G.
Neighborhood Council to pay directly for best vendor service of funding request. Again, these are my thoughts. I think it's somewhat, responsible to know who the money is going to and if there was a vetting process in place. So again, this
Yeah.
is part of the conversation and worthy of insight and experience from
Absolutely.
yes.
Was your
Yeah.
specific objection with E?
As someone who, I run a nonprofit,
Mhm.
so I have to go through these things
Yeah, sure.
all the time. I would not even apply for a grant that had that requirement in there.
Good to
Why
know.
is that though?
Because you are saying, we are going to do a process the city does, and some government agencies do, that is the cause of many infrastructure disasters and failures of things all over the world. Is you're going for the lowest bidder on a project. What you're saying is provide 3 quotes and let us pay them directly. And we will determine who the best vendor service is. Well, what the hell, do you do this for a living? Do you know who the best vendor service is? Really? Well, then why don't you do this
pay
for them for a
directly
living?
for best vendor service? I didn't say we
You-
make the decisions
You want 3 quotes,
for SCNC to pay directly.
and you'll pay them directly,
Right.
rather than the person who's doing the project, and you'll determine who the
So,
best vendor service is.
Let me ask you this as a nonprofit.
I would be so
You're
offended
very
by that, I
above-
wouldn't even engage.
But this is up for, and this is not a conflict of interest for me. This is something that I put in there personally because I think that it's a vetting process, and as a taxpayer, it's kind of important to know that you got quotes that were not just one in and done. So again,
Honestly,
you
I could
guys,
find
it's
somebody
up
to
to
do,
you.
there are a million things I can find somebody to do super cheaply, I would never in a million years hire those people.
well,
Because what you want is a project that's gonna last and succeed and be beautiful and
I
hold up.
never said cheapest price, so Mel, I'm hearing
No,
that.
no,
It's
no.
not
Yeah,
for,
no,
it's not for debate, it's just, these are things
Yeah, these
that I
are
could-
ideas and these are
Correct.
suggestions. I would say,
Right.
just in your defense, Lisa, hearing from the community in a lot of these meetings, I think a big concern among them is if there was any consideration for another bid price for I think there's a way to combine these two things, or find where the middle of that Venn diagram is for these two things to satisfy the intention of E without making it a deal breaker for nonprofits.
Sure, and
These are just
I think if
food for
there are
thought.
committee members with expertise in some of the vendors and some of the practices and some of
Yeah.
the businesses there, that there is a way to engage in a dialogue with the potential grantee in a discussion about the project proposal, rather than saying, we are empowered here to make the decision about who is going to be doing the work on the project you're bringing to us.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what this says.
Yeah.
And I would recommend against anything that says that. I think in all likelihood, there wouldn't be a person on the committee who would be able to make that judgment, and you would default to what's the cheapest. If you default to what's the cheapest, you're not
I
going to meet
concur.
your objectives.
I disagree wholeheartedly, because based on best vendor and service, I know for a fact that you'd want, if you're doing any tree cutting, you want that vendor that's going to clean that equipment before he goes to the next tree. So that might be $15 or $10 more per tree, but I know that he's not spreading disease from tree 1 to tree 2 to tree 3. But I would really appreciate that if somebody was coming to us for funding, I knew that they looked at
Made sure that, you know.
the nature of maybe 2 quotes, then we make it,
Mhm.
you know, and the cheapest one might have been the cheapest one, but the second one was more of a careful, thoughtful vendor who knew that disease carries, and I'd be willing to go with that one, just knowing
Yeah.
with that backup. So, again, this is just
I
my
think you
support on
misunderstood and
that.
thought she just meant the cheapest, but she.
No,
oh,
and
okay.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
I know you're moving away from participation
Yeah.
in this, and so don't take, I'm not,
No, that's okay.
right?
Yeah.
I think that by and large, the likelihood of having people with that kind of expertise,
Mhm.
who may have a vision for wanting a vendor who would not spread disease, but wouldn't know which ones did or didn't, the likelihood of that being the majority of any committee, much less the board, is slim to none. So what would default in language like this is who's the cheapest, and that's
Oh.
my
So
concern.
that can happen too,
Do you
yes.
understand?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
you might want to look for another way to accomplish.
Totally
your
understand.
objective.
Yeah, I understand the objection.
And then the other thing I had an objection to, and I'll instead of just saying, I don't like it, Lisa, I'll say, what were you after?
Yes.
Because it sounds like this is based on a bad experience. The last one, not the last one, G.
All project plans are projected upfront when funds are requested, and if anything alters from approved plans, the funds would be frozen until new plans are reviewed. In other words, board does not approve changeable plans. Well, this is what you were kind of saying at the beginning of this, where it's like, board approves a plan or a project, and then it slowly evolves into something that probably doesn't even resemble even the intention of the original funding. Am I getting that right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
So-
just a way to kind of keep things
Right.
on the same
So there's a
project.
better way of languaging that as well.
Have at it.
Yeah, and if, most likely, if somebody's got a project they want to do, they haven't invested a lot of time and money into doing construction documents. They may have a concept design, they may have
Mhm.
something resembling design development documents, but it's unlikely that they're gonna have anything other than a concept design. So what you can say in here is that you could set up a reimbursable schedule that
Mhm.
has, you get this amount of money when you to begin the process. When you get to your design development documents phase, bring it to us,
Mhm.
and then then we get to comment on it. And when that's a deliverable, then you get your second tranche
Installment.
of
Sure,
money.
yeah.
So that's a different way that doesn't tie people's hands, because this assumes that the project plans are done when they come to you, and I'm telling you that most likely you'll have a concept plan,
Mhm.
and the reality out in the world can be a bit different. So that, I think, changes to that, more carefully wording that, and again, building it into, here's the form you fill out for requested projects, here's how we do this, not here's your $30,000 up front.
Right, yeah.
Hope you come back and tell us when it's done.
Let us know when
Let us know when the
Send-
opening
send-
day is.
send
It's
pictures.
sort of like, let's do a budget. We're gonna do, here's the deliverables, and we'll do this in a phased approach.
Mhm.
And that gives you some sort of oversight without setting up an adversarial or an impossible relationship with the project.
And I also think that that's a key word, oversight.
Yes,
I
and I
think that
think-
that's the thread in this. Yep.
I can make a comment here. So, I'm a working graphic designer and motion artist, so I work with clients every day, and it's there is a balance here, and I understand it from both points of view, where it's like, yeah, when I deliver thumbnails to a client, you know, it's like I don't want to be expected to adhere to whatever the thumbnail is, especially if I have something in discovery in the design process. But there's also always an initial project brief, and I handed something that doesn't resemble even what their intention was. There's
Right.
going to be pushback. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think oversight is great. Quality control is great as well. It's a balance of this.
And being in marketing for 25 years, scope of work.
Totally.
So
Mhm.
if you're upfront with the scope of work and you
Mhm.
know what your end product is going to be, that's
Yeah.
where I'm seeing this as a helpful guide.
Yeah.
And that,
So the intention, I think, is
absolutely.
I think this
Yeah.
is sort of graduating
Yeah.
from where many neighborhood councils have been, which is somebody comes and says, "We want new band uniforms, and we want to do a thing," and people are like, "Here's a check, bye."
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how it's
And they
been.
bought a car
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of how it's been, and I think
You
what
get a car,
what
you get a car, you get a car.
what you want to do is set up a process that
Mhm.
starts getting you to a place where you can have more
Keep track.
involvement. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just going to read Richard Adams' comment on this, and then I'll move for other comments on this as well. So D, support as well. He does say, and this is just, again, these are nitpick things, but if this is just a kind of a thought dump, they may not apply by the end. He was suggesting changing native plants to LA Rio palette, as people may have a adverse effect to the term native plants.
Cool.
Because he says, like, so you don't get pushback from native plants are ugly fools. So add the inch sign after 8.5 and 11 on signs. That's just a syntax thing. So
Okay.
anyone else have any sort of comment on D?
I
Before moving
I
on.
would just give Richard a little shit on that one.
I'll
If
say
you're-
it to the
if you're
camera.
Richard, if you're proposing a greening project and you're going to say native plants are ugly fools, that should be a pretty good sign that we want to say thank you for your time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe drought resistant, you know?
No.
No? Because there are a lot of nice drought resistant.
Well, but we're saying predominance for natives.
Oh, okay.
And then the balance can be
Sure, okay.
drought.
Preference.
And I should
Climate
qualify.
appropriate is a pretty good,
That's a nice way to say it.
catch-all
Yeah,
here.
it is.
but we end up having, we also want to make sure is we're supporting habitat, pollinators
Yes.
especially. So what you get if you just go with drought tolerant,
You don't have.
and even
That's
climate
true.
appropriate sometimes if you're not pushing on natives is
Okay,
like
yeah,
say the
that's
Trader
true.
Joe's landscape,
Yeah.
which is Australian, it's a hodgepodge of, Australian and other things, and, we could have done so much better.
Yeah.
And I think it behooved the committee also to sort of up the education on this, so that when things like the Trader Joe, another business wants to change their landscape out, that we
Yeah.
have more informed input and a criteria for the
It'd
community.
be nice to know ahead of time. I mean, it was awful showing up to Traders, what is it, a couple of years
They
ago? I was
didn't
like,
come through.
They came through the
3 years
Residents
ago?
Association,
Right.
apparently.
Oh, it did?
It didn't come through the Studio City Neighborhood
Oh.
Council.
Mhm.
I mean, as a board member, that was never put through.
Yeah, I guess it was since I was on the board.
Which
yeah.
was kind of, I'm not slating anybody, but I believe in the past, there's always been, land use has always been
A
a
search and
conduit
search.
to
Yeah, you wanna
the
search
community
out.
and the
Mhm.
changes. And
Yeah.
so maybe they missed going through Studio City Neighborhood Council land use, and then it didn't get funneled up through the board meetings, which
Right.
is a loss.
They
To
may
the
have gone
community,
through
by
land
the way.
use, and since land use didn't see it as a traffic issue, they punted and said, Karen, do whatever you want.
I don't know. It
Oh,
was
I'm
it-
on tape.
Well, was it, it seemed like it was longer than, I guess we've been on the board for almost 3 years now.
Yeah, it's that long.
Has it been?
Yes, a
Is
license
there-
for 2016.
Is there a way to establish almost like a mandatory educational meeting with these businesses in the area? I know maybe not mandatory, but like actually set up a thing where somebody goes and actually works with these corporations to be like, okay, let's talk about your landscaping, let's talk about the use of native plants, and kind of like tie it together with the in-depth education program for urban foresters.
I think what we can do is let the council office know, because nobody's gonna do diddly without running.
There's a
council
master
office.
Or maybe the
plan.
Chamber of Commerce? Would they
But there's a
kinda go
master
through them?
plan for Studio City, and that's something that has to be either adjusted to maybe the landscaping element of it,
Yeah.
Okay.
and that would
We
be
need to work
interesting
quick with
route.
Mendocino Farms.
I don't know what they're gonna do in the landscaping there at the complex, do you think?
I don't know, I was wondering out front if they would.
It doesn't sound too much.
No, I'm sure they'll
But-
put some plants in, yeah.
Find out in the fall of 2018.
Yeah, I think the Rio
Right about now.
palette, to Richard's point, we should adhere to that within the Rio zone.
Yeah.
But outside the Rio zone, then we do wanna talk about, you know,
And just,
natives and lemon appropriate.
and I don't know if this came through, but, because it was written, I'm reading it, but he's not saying he's against the native plants himself, just the terminology. That might be
Yeah.
easier to swallow if it changes something else.
Oh, I just think Richard needs to get over it. That's me. And I would quite frankly go with like maybe 50% or even more of native, and the balance being climate appropriate. We don't want people wasting water on landscape, and we want to make sure that these things are.
Well,
I
again,
like
I'm not
sustainable
an
appropriate.
expert in biodiversity, and that's the beauty of either paying somebody $50 for their experience in helping shape
Yeah.
a storyline here that's best for our community and our stakeholders. So, again,
Yeah, this can be
for-
crafted the more
Absolutely.
people we bring in and talk to.
And it's good.
Exactly.
And it's good to start out with a why. You know, a
Yeah.
why statement.
Mhm.
Because Studio City, you know, supports and treasures or whatever these things. This is our criteria.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Oh,
I
right.
mean, in the end, what we all want is a beautiful community that everyone has pride in, and it's livable, and people want to come here. It's livable, breathable,
Yeah,
breathable. Yes.
And
so-
climate resilient.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Big
gonna
time.
go with
Habitat.
that. That'd be pretty any day.
Habitat support.
Yeah.
But natives
And
are
why you
pretty
choose
freaking
to
gorgeous.
live here, right? Why you choose to live here. There's a
Yeah.
reason for it.
Yeah.
And all
So,
right,
let's
moving
make
on
it
to
happen.
8. So this is a discussion and possible motion
Yes.
for full joiner. Although Lisa and I had talked, and we may also already be a full membership board on this alliance. But just to reaffirm our membership status and to finally get on the website and the proper and all this. The language for the motion: we, the Studio City Neighborhood Council, formally agreed to be a member of the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance. The Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance advances sustainability and resilience across Los Angeles through advocacy, sharing of best practices, and community action. So that's the language pulled from their own website in terms of how the correct process of getting on the board. As it's already in the schedule, I think we can just vote on that. And all in favor? You're a voting member now. You're on the.
Right, if we can just talk about this.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
If we can study exactly what they're doing, because the entire reason why I came over
Mhm.
on this side was to be closer to home and also to work on big things, reducing carbon emissions as far as looking into renewables. I would love to get solar panels on libraries,
Mhm.
and then also policy, and I'm not sure, I've got to study the Brown Act to see if we can bring in the candidates that are coming up, not endorsing anyone, of course, just letting the community know this is where they stand on this and this.
Yeah, we do that.
But I'm not sure, I'm all for the alliance, I'm
Yeah,
behind them all the
good.
way, but I'm not sure what their mission is, if it includes renewables and policy.
Mhm.
So
I'm not sure about that myself.
on the policy side, one of the reasons they have the alliance is so that you could share ways that you can, here we're all going to be talking about this. Maybe we should consider submitting a community impact statement, because that's really starts.
Right, I'm talking about the candidates for the election as policy wise.
Which election?
The upcoming election,
The midterm
we've
election?
got between,
Governor?
there's
Or-
like, for example, Steve Knight and Katie Hill,
California
there's,
25th.
right, but people aren't aware of where they stand on issues that involve the environment. So I wasn't sure if we could, let people know, here's how they stand environmentally.
Wait, are you speaking to line item number 8A with the motion for the Sustainability Alliance of becoming a member of that?
Right, because what are they behind? I mean, do they back that? Are they already working
So
on
this
it,
is like,
or-
and this is a lot. I think what Lisa was saying at the top, where it's like there's no real borders when we're talking about sustainability and environment, where a lot of these different sustainability, all of the different sustainability committees and all of the neighborhood councils that are saying, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm shooting from the hip here. All the other sustainability committees like this one for other neighborhoods like Toluca Lake and Van Nuys and all that join together to basically, as they say, to share the best practices as a whole and move as a group.
But what are their best practices? What are they working on other than leaf blowers?
Well, I think
So
that we
the
get
tree
to.
committee-
I think
oh, no,
we
that's
also get to
part of it.
define that agenda as well,
And you
being
participate
a
in that
member.
agenda by being a member, but
Yeah.
I think I heard you speak directly to,
Renewals and policy, yeah.
well, I heard you speak strongest about candidates and seeing where they stand on climate issues.
Right.
And I don't think the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance is going to take that on, and they're not going to support candidates. None of the other,
Not support
hang
them,
on,
just
none of the
educate.
other neighborhood council alliances
position.
do that with candidates. But I would,
Actually,
if
we
you're
do,
not
yeah,
A few do, I think.
yeah, we do.
We've had it, well, I
No.
guess.
And it's
The
not
board has
supporting
never
them,
taken a
it's just
position on this.
providing
No, they don't
where
take
they
a position,
stand.
but they come and
I just wanna
speak.
make sure it wasn't a conflict, so
Yes.
if we're gonna follow
You know,
what they
when
do and be a
Hertzberg
part of
came
it, if we
and-
can still have our independent side, that's all.
right,
Yes.
oh, yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
This-
Oh,
this-
good,
It's like-
okay,
and I-
then
and I
I'm
would-
all for
And I
it.
would,
Yeah.
I would just direct you to an organization called Climate Hawks.
Oh, I'm quite familiar.
Okay, all right.
I'm one of the Honorable Al Gore's top climate reality leaders, so.
Climate Hawks is working on climate.
I know RL and
Okay,
Richard and
Yeah.
yes.
This is just like
Yeah.
what we do here. We want to team up with others as well, find out what everyone's doing.
Right.
That's great, as
Yeah.
long as we can remain independent
Absolutely.
for our own, okay, great.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you can make things happen with the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance. Everybody has a voice there, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just-
as well
it's
as also
empowering
keeping this
numbers.
committee
It's just-
active,
it's a
which I think is
broader-
what you're saying.
Everybody can do
Right.
their own thing in
And
their
I
own
did,
communities.
I did become a part of that. It just
Mhm.
became overwhelming because they're working on so many things that contradict what we are. There's so many things going on. There wasn't time to engage
Yeah.
as much. Right, and I'm all for it. I back them all the way.
Okay, so you.
So I jumped the gun on that before, and I apologize. Any other public comments on?
Forgot to ask for discussion.
I did.
Oh my God.
Absolutely did.
That's okay.
Well,
I'd like to bring.
That's why the
to
community's keeping me on task.
No, before that, I was all for it. I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
there was
totally.
no conflict.
I think that's good.
I'd like to bring to light, as I
Yeah.
made mention earlier on, that the Sustainability Committee back in February 7th, 2017 to be exact, passed a motion, and I could share with you the verbiage and the motion itself. It says, "We, the Studio City Neighborhood Council Board, formally agree to be a member of the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance. The Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance advances sustainability and realizes."
Ends with
So
action.
this has been
Yeah.
on the books since
Year
February
and a half.
2007.
And it hasn't gone to the board for approval?
It did go to
did, and we
board.
approved it, it just never, it never took the next step, but,
Okay.
yeah.
So
So now we'll
Are
take
there,
the next
are there
step.
other things on the list, like in 6 that we have been talking about, that have,
Got passed, but
that
didn't
got
go.
passed but didn't then get
I think the first
promulgated?
page.
So we should
Yeah.
we should differentiate between the ones that we've tried to be bringing to the committee that haven't taken a vote, and the ones that have gone to a vote but then haven't been promulgated,
Well, I think-
and just,
But you did it on number 7. 7 is just presentation, discussion, and possible motion.
So those were not made
Those were
motions
not.
yet.
Right. So
Okay.
they're already divided. So six.
Yeah, 6 were motions.
6 are motions that were passed by the board
okay.
in full, and 7 are things that are either in progress or haven't been fully
So
acted
we'll take
yet.
8 and wrap it into 6 and make a list for the board and
Yeah.
make a demand
That's a
of
good
the
idea.
board
There you
that,
go.
that these.
Poor Lisa, how many demands have you made so far? 3,
It's all
4,
fun.
5?
It's all good.
He named me his top, this was 3 years ago.
Oh, there's
He named me
Well,
his top
okay. So
leader
my
2 years
my
in a
worry
row, so
about
I'm quite
folding
familiar.
8 into 6.
Talks,
My
yeah.
my worry about
Well,
doing
not
that.
Climate Talks, Climate
But yes,
Reality.
oh, no, that was different.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my worry about folding 8 into 6 is as we kind of bring this committee back and we really want to like force them to finally go for this. I'm worrying about pitching this as something that was done in the past that we're just trying to, dust the
Formalized.
yeah,
Yeah.
rather than all right, this is something we just passed now. Let's get the energy on it.
Just have the board vote on it again and
Let's
then
just vote
do
on it
as
again.
new.
And the
Yeah.
thing is if they vote no on that, we do have
Well-
the other one as a backup.
Well, we'll tell them they already voted
Sure.
on this.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that- and they'll all vote on it.
But I think it's
know they
I
will.
think it's easier to vote on this motion now and bring it to a full board as a new motion rather than
Okay.
say like, hey, remember that thing from almost 2 years ago?
Well, it
Like,
might even have expired by now, who knows?
it might be expired by now.
But
So it might be better safe than anything to make
Sure.
this a new motion, keep it as 8.
yeah, that's fine.
Richard Adams has a public comment on this and then
What's
present
his-
it to the board as new.
What's his comment?
His comment is support. It's important that at least some of the SCNC be seen as being active and participatory in the bigger scheme of things.
At least some. Good. Thanks, Richard.
So.
I don't
Is
think
he
he
watching
likes
us
us very
live?
much.
No, he wanted. He's technically a committee member. He wanted to attend today. He's not feeling very well, and so he just kind of gave me an itemized like,
I
here's
wasn't sure
kind of
if
what
he
I'm
was
thinking.
watching us live somewhere.
Oh, no,
I'm sure he'll watch this later.
I was gonna say hello.
We'll do, but he'll see it eventually.
Yeah, he'll say it
Hi,
eventually.
Richard.
So with that said, is there any other public or board comments for 8 before we
Now,
take the
if you
vote?
wanted to attach the February 2000 18 or 17 minutes on that.
Yeah,
so
I can do that too.
it's
Yeah, we could do that,
part of
sure.
the continuance of
It
it.
could just be like a
Yeah.
battery
Yeah.
line.
We're just,
right at
we're
the
gonna
board.
In
say this is
Mhm.
gonna be our second, you know,
Yeah.
February 2017 that passed, so whatever those minutes exist, that's where it would be
Okay.
at.
I think
Okay.
it's great. So with
I'll
motion
leave it at
8, let's take a vote if there's no more comments on it. So all in favor?
Aye.
And that's 5. All opposed? And that's unanimous. A vote for 5. It passes. Hooray!
Fantastic.
It will be brought to the board. Moving on.
And if I may say something,
Yes,
is
please.
your name in this at all? Did we want to put her,
well,
Heidi's name?
maybe we'll kind of, cause I
Well, that
was
was going to
thinking,
be next. I was going to
Oh.
move to that.
well,
Okay.
well, I was on the trees committee, even though I guess technically we weren't even part of it.
Mhm.
But you have such it sounds like you have such knowledge already. Would you like to be the trees, sustainability?
Well, the NCSA, being the rep would be not just for trees, it would be
Correct.
for the NCSA.
Well, I was on the trees committee.
But you're an alliance to, as a representative, you're
It's-
liaison between SCNC and the
The
neighborhood council.
sustainability.
Correct.
Okay.
What you did is you chose to be on the trees committee. But what you can do on the monthly basis is report in based on what you heard at the meeting, if you so inclined to be part of the board
The
agenda.
board agenda. See, that, I think, because I
Correct.
was never technically, I never got any communications from them. I did meet with the trees committee, because
Yeah.
that's, you know, so I don't think I ever really became
That's what we're
part
gonna
of
look
it.
to fix.
So do you wanna?
What they like to have is a representative. And
Right.
along with the neighborhood councils formally joining, they want a representative assigned, as well.
Yes,
And, you know, I'm participating with them, and
you are already?
yeah, I'm
Okay.
already, and I've agreed to help get the water committee back up and going, and I've been doing a little bit of work on
Great.
that.
So if you're already in commit, can you be our representative? Would you be okay with that?
If the committee wants me to do that, I could do that, and also if you want to continue to participate, in particular with respect to the trees committee.
probably
then-
will. I'll do
then
that,
You
but-
you could either be the official liaison and continue in that regard, or you could just continue in that regard and not be the official liaison, but I hope you would continue one way or the other.
Well, I'll probably stay within the trees, but if it's okay, if you wanna be the you know, with all the other, all the sustainability alliance in general. Because I don't know if it would be a monthly thing, you have to go to the meetings, I'm on like 3 committees with the board, I think I'm like,
So
you know, I
the
just got a
board
lot.
president does appoint, right, the
Mhm.
liaison for the alliance, is that correct?
There's the neighborhood council board president.
Yeah.
I would think they would want to have that.
Yeah, and I would imagine we could make a
privilege.
recommendation
Right,
to the
correct.
board,
Right.
and that we should.
And they would be totally fine with whoever we recommend,
I would
so,
imagine, yeah.
if you wanna be I just I don't know the crossover, I don't know how, cause obviously it never happened, you know, I was never part of the sustainability, just the trees committee.
Well, I'll say this, I think, so now moving forward with this, trying to get full membership, having all that go forward, if you wanna be our liaison and you wanna be involved, I see more participation in the city neighborhood council as part of this committee, and it is better than less.
Absolutely.
So the more people that we have firepower over there, absolutely.
And I would say that if this committee makes a recommendation, the board may wish to have an actual board member as the formal liaison, and in that case, then
Oh, if they
that
do,
that may
but
be
I don't think
something
they'll, no, I don't think so, but yes, if they do, then I'll do it.
And we can
Great.
present it
I'll-
like that,
Yeah,
So, yeah, if you wouldn't mind being or at least the recommendation for the board,
Sure.
liaison, great, that's fantastic. Great, yeah. So just moving on to number 9, just comments from members on subject matter within the committee's jurisdiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
There will be a truncated announcement coming out in the Residents Association newsletter. Sort of took a couple of us, including the Assembly member, by surprise, but there will be a longer press release coming out later, and there'll be an event of some sort at some point in time. But my organization has been working with the Residents Association, the Chamber, the BID, LASA, Rec and Parks. I'm going to be forgetting somebody. I think there may be 2 other entities.
Which organization is this?
The River Project.
Okay.
for a number of years trying to get funding from various sources to repair the city's LA River Greenway between Laurel Canyon and Whitsett. It's been, what native plants are left, which are few, are struggling. The invasives have completely taken over. There are many issues on the site. So we proposed a pretty comprehensive approach to invasives removal, habitat restoration, a design charrette for not reopening, but opening finally the access gate through the Vaughn's parking lot, exploring a couple of other possible points of entry to make it feel safer, and perhaps even looking at the Sycamore Pocket Park again. And a few other things around there. So through a design charrette, looking at those things. So removing the invasives, doing habitat restoration, doing a design charrette to address some of the other possible issues there. And then throughout that process, also working with LASA, Rec and Parks, and the PD on humanely addressing the homeless situation on the site as well. Because we cannot just go out there when we have people living there and say, no, we're going to take all this stuff away and you need to go away, so.
Yeah.
So this is a very holistic, complex project, but the Assembly member went and found some funding for us in this year's budget, and we're working with the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy as our funder to get this done. So we have a lot of partners, and that should be kicking off towards the beginning of the year.
That's great.
But I wanted to let you know about it.
Yeah.
Hope to have you guys involved to one way or another. We'll keep you apprised of it, and didn't want you to just read about it in the Residents Association newsletter and go, hey.
Why didn't you tell us?
Yeah. So there's that, and that's central to our community.
I love it.
Yeah, very.
That's really great.
And I still have the original design, not design, but construction documents for the site because I was on the VNOC 20 years ago.
Wow.
Years ago.
Really?
You were just a child.
And for those of you who don't know, the stretch of greenway between Laurel Canyon and CBS is ours. We did that design with
Okay.
students at Carpenter.
Nice.
More of them should look that way.
Yes, agreed.
Oh, and also we will be in the fall. Sorry.
It is fall,
So
that's
you
right.
know, I know. Shut up. Not yet. Not official. You know the 3 triptych panels that are empty sitting on the fence on that greenway, and that's because the funding for that sort of evaporated when we built the project and never came through. And then as Yaroslavsky was retiring, leaving office, I was like, so wouldn't you like to see that done? And they were like, gosh, yes, we forgot about that. So we received the funding for that, and those are in reaching final design. We intend to install those in the next couple of months.
That's great.
So we will finally have 3 triptychs as interpretive panels that are looking to be also hanging on the valley.
Great.
Greenway.
Excellent.
Yep.
And our offices are recently relocated. If you want to come visit and learn more about what we do, or talk about anything, or if we ever want to hold a committee meeting there instead of here,
Sure. Yeah.
we're in the Pete's complex,
Okay.
back by the
Oh.
Thai restaurant.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Didn't know.
Okay, if I may mention a couple things.
Yeah.
With regard to air traveling over borders, there is a climate march for Los Angeles that's going on. Actually, San Francisco's starting this. It's all throughout California. It's probably going to be nationwide. It's this Saturday, 11 a.m. It's called Rise for LA Climate Jobs and Justice. It's going to be phenomenal. Address is 801 West 23rd Street in LA. Commences at 11 a.m. Bring your signs. You can have Studio City Neighborhood Council or, and one other thing, when I was training with the Honorable Al Gore last week for the 4th time, I'm one of his top climate reality volunteer leaders. He made an announcement about SB 100, that's Senator Kevin De Leon's bill to transition California to 100% emission-free electricity sources by 2024, and it passed. It's sitting on Governor Brown's desk, so it's probably too late for us to send a letter if you would even consider
As
doing so.
individuals, you
Well, we
can,
can-
but not
I've
as
done
a
it
board.
individually, I wasn't sure.
I'm gonna call that
if you
office.
could-
Send an email, make a
Please
call.
do.
Yeah.
This is
It's
phenomenal.
2040, not 2024, but
It's, well, I'm sorry, you're right, I was
I'm sorry. What is it?
copying my own.
it's 100% by 2040,
Oh,
not
I see.
2024.
20, I transposed, right?
That's good. Yeah, that would be.
That's SB
impossible.
100?
That's
SB 100.
SB 100,
Great.
yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think we could.
That's
really good.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, yes it is.
And just to follow up, you mentioned your good work along the river. So the committee, probably a year ago or two ago, a stakeholder who had children, who was taking her dog and her children to the parkways.
The roundup.
The roundup, exactly. So there's been a lot more action, state and federal, about roundup and how
Right.
not good,
Yeah.
horrible it is. So anyways, if you want, I could send you that motion again and see if we could get, or the committee or Sustainability Alliance can get some momentum on stopping any use of these terrible and toxic pesticides along our public parks and riverways. We had one success with it from all the people that we reached out to, and we were promised that they would stop spraying at the park by the library.
Beeman?
Beeman Park,
Beeman.
pardon me. So I don't know if they continued on over the course of the year and stopped that process, but this is something also to put on your to-do list to
Yeah.
see
Yeah,
if we could
absolutely.
Burbank just passed something, didn't they? Where it completely eliminated all roundup.
That would be nice. I don't know
I
why
think they just did it because
we
I
can't
remember.
just follow this other.
Yeah.
At that time, it was part of the
Into
discussion,
that.
but no one it was seeing it as a cause and effect, but with that huge lawsuit that went into play, and
Yeah.
it's just, you know, it's gonna dissolve, hopefully, the use of it. It should not even be sold in.
I know, when I
Yeah.
see it in the
Lovely.
department, in the, the hardware store, I wanna buy it all up and throw it away.
I saw
mean,
they were
can't even
using it,
breathe
just
when I walk down.
spraying, right.
I just like.
So I mean, the overarching thing is quality of life again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then every gas leaf blower, in addition to emissions, you're breathing that in.
Yeah.
Any
Well,
other-
I can look at see if I'm remembering correctly that Burbank got something passed, and I can see what sort of language that they
Yeah.
used and how they implemented it.
How
if
it
that
got
would be
passed,
useful.
yeah. That'd be very good. Great.
That'd be great.
I
I have a suggestion.
Yeah, my mistake, it's 2045.
What's this?
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2045.
I have a
It's
suggestion.
getting further and further.
I
every
know.
time we talk.
That's okay.
Are you
I
sure
think-
it's still 20,
I think
not
it was
30,
wishful,
45 maybe?
wishful thinking 2024.
We're all
gonna be the Jetsons and-
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we wait for
Yeah.
2350, then we'll get an
Yeah,
iPhone.
we're gonna have to look down from the clouds on that one.
Or the channel.
It's
Yeah.
exciting though.
It's,
Yeah.
it's so
It
fun.
is.
I have a suggestion just on language, and I appreciate quality of life. I will also say that coming from a community like Studio City, when you're looking at citywide stuff, our quality of life is pretty damn good. Public health is another way of saying it that can sometimes be received a little more seriously than quality of life.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
When
good
you've got,
definition.
especially when you're dealing
Yeah.
with people in a city, and
Yeah.
you've got people in council districts who, if they hear from Studio City on
Quality of life,
issues, like,
that's
Correct.
right.
It may not be interpreted.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
right,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Good one.
I want to make just a quick update on something. Last month I went to, actually, was it last? I don't even know when it was. But I went to the LA River Master Plan meeting down in Cudahy. It was the second meeting. They're touring the city right now. Just to update everyone on just like the very beginning stages of updating this 25-year-old master plan that desperately needs updating. Not much new information with it, and I think it's going to grow as it travels. But I did get a bunch of pictures of their signs and everything and participated. I could certainly share that with you. What is important, though, is that I think meeting number 5
It's here.
is going to be here in Studio City at the beginning of October. So I can,
Yeah, keep us updated on
I
that.
can keep everyone updated. I'm sure you know much more than I do.
I do, and
about
I
all
would
this.
love to chat with anybody who wants to talk about it before the meeting.
Absolutely.
What's the actual date on it?
Well,
Oh.
do I have it here?
The
I have a
flyer.
brochure
Yeah, it's on the
somewhere.
back of the brochure. Which is
Do you
in the
know
office.
if we're the last
No.
stop?
No,
No,
we're like number
Just curious.
5 or 6
They're doing
out of
20 meetings.
20, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we're actually in the front.
They've only done 2. They did Canoga Park High School, and then they did Cudahy.
Yeah. I was here for that. I don't know where this thing is. I'll let everyone know.
Thank you.
But yeah.
I thought
And
it was
then,
December, but maybe I'm misremembering.
is it this number?
Yeah,
It was-
it's,
I don't know.
October, November,
I
December.
don't even have the brochure.
Can I ask really quickly what your impression was of the?
What, of the meeting?
Mhm.
I thought it was a nice I don't think it was very actionable, but I thought it was a nice, like there were some things that I didn't know about LA River. I found myself really wanting to be more curious about learning about the LA River from it. It was good, I think, for what it was. I don't have the breadth, though, of experience outside of that.
Did you have questions that you wanted to ask from people who were there, and
Yes.
were you able to get them answered?
I was
To your
able to get
satisfaction.
answered most of the questions that I had.
Okay.
I don't know if the right answers, but I will say this: they were answers
Yeah, they were
for,
answers.
for varying degrees of what that could mean. But yeah,
I was involved in the first one and in the interim updates as well.
oh, yeah, not the best. We should chat.
You're welcome.
Like-
Just reach out and come. You know, Pete's is right next door in the office.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other comments within the committee's jurisdiction before we move it to closing?
And that's open to anybody too, since our office is local. If you want to reach out to find a time when we can sit down and talk about the river, or more importantly, the watershed.
The block. Yeah.
Well, we could always go back. I bet you were aware of one of the line items, not to make this a long meeting, I apologize. There was a point in time for point number 6, letter A, the Green Infrastructure Pilot Program. I don't know if you were part of the committee meeting at that time,
It
but
wasn't the meeting.
but the Bureau of Engineering was, we wanted to have Studio City considered for their Green Infrastructure Pilot Program, which is a lot to do with your watershed.
Yeah.
And do you know status-wise if they've executed on any particular locations for their pilot programs? Or is that dead?
You know, it's not doesn't have a big high profile as named as such. But I can reach out and find out. I think, honestly, they're mostly what they're gonna do is do an exercise with GIS where they're looking for places that need water quality improvements, and Studio City is not high on that list. Our water quality is not that bad. Stormwater runoff water quality is not that bad. Doesn't pop. They'll be looking at hotspots that the EWIMPs, the Enhanced Watershed Management Plans, have identified as needing treatment, and they're gonna be, their priority will be to go to those places and do things that are gonna address that.
I was hoping that they would look to us as the hills and the flats meeting up with one another, so maybe we had some quick solutions for the cutouts and things like that.
What we have is flooding issues, especially along the boulevard. They're not equipped and they haven't even considered dealing with slope treatments yet. But we can.
We could.
By the way, you were right. It's
Cutouts?
December.
It's December.
It is December.
December,
So
is
you
it
have plenty of
possibly
time
during
to learn-
Plenty of
Christmas
To
or
learn,
Hanukkah?
Yeah.
to learn some good
Right.
questions to ask.
So with
and what
that
to look
said, if I can move on to number 10, I just want to thank everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be really exciting. I agree with you. I like the idea of bold action,
Thank
bold
you.
things.
Think big.
Think big, bring it to me. I'll kick some doors down.
We have a
And I think
climate
collectively, I think we can do some good stuff here.
Yes.
Thank to Lisa for helping guidance
Yeah,
for all this. She's really going to help
Yay, Lisa.
us,
You're also
navigate this.
informative.
No.
And it was really
It's a
lovely to
collective
meet
effort.
everybody. We know each other, but
Yeah.
I don't know the two of you. It's very nice to meet you.
Likewise.
More
for stepping
participation.
up.
Absolutely, more participation the better.
Thank you for stepping up.
And I will say this: so like next month, I'd like to change the day, the time, because I know Thursdays is trouble for a lot of people. I'd like to change to the first Mondays of every month. Location to be determined. If we can change that up, it'd be great. I'd like your offer on that as well. And but yeah, if there's any problems with that, or if there's a better time people are thinking about, please let me know. I just know Thursdays are going to be an issue for a couple,
Yeah.
including the
fine.
vice chair.
Yeah,
So-
Monday's fine.
This
yeah.
is a fun location, though. I enjoy coming on
Oh,
the
you
lot.
do?
You may be unique enough.
hate the process
My
these
background
days.
is all
Yeah.
entertainment, Warner Brothers, Columbia Pictures,
I get
Dick
it.
Clark, so I feel like I'm at home here.
Back in the day
Oh.
when we could just walk through the front gate,
Yeah.
it was fine. Now it's just like.
Oh yeah, they asked me if I had ID. They searched my bags
Yep.
this time.
Yeah.
They
Every
didn't.
time you'll
They
do that.
didn't.
And then with that, I say and move to adjourn.
Yeah.
Yay! Thank you
Great.
very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the stakeholders at home.